Hey, community, Michael here from Vagabond. I just want to take a moment today to talk to one of our workshop teachers that are coming up, Colby Holt here, and share with you a little
Hello.
bit about a little bit about his journey and a little bit about his workshop and what he's going to be working on with our students here in Chicago. Hey, Colby, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get involved with the Vagabond community and like meet some actors and do this workshop. It's going to be exciting.
Awesome. So something that we like to do here at Vagabond when we're, talking to instructors is learn more about their journey, right? I talk a lot about the actor's journey. You have a director's journey, producer's journey, right? So I know that you took classes at IO for writing. I know you're from the American South.
Yes,
Looked at
yes.
IMDb, right? So
Yep,
tell us a little bit more about how you went from, I guess I don't know if I don't want to say improviser, but working in Chicago, moving to LA, writing Ganymede,
sure.
I'd love to hear kind of how that process worked for you.
Well, let's go all the way back to the beginning. I was a little bit, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right.
But no,
Uh,
but we will go back to Kentucky though, because that is kind of where my journey started. Is that like many folks in Chicago, I come from a theater background. That's how I first got into acting and directing. At one point finally worked up the courage to like audition for a play when I was in high school. Um, and I did that, fell in love with theater and so started from like an actor's perspective um, in this industry of entertainment. And so I did theater all throughout high school, and I did speech and debate. And so when I went to college, actually, I went to college for specifically to went to a Western Kentucky University to be on the speech and debate team. Um, and so that's when, that is a very performance based thing. We do interpretive events as well. So like poetry or prose or acting. And so that's kind of like what got me into it. But what was crucial there was that you're kind of, you're competing with these 10-minute pieces, but you're putting them together, you're choosing the material, you've got an intro that you give, which is like why you're doing the piece that you're doing. And so it started getting me into thinking about like, okay, how am I using this as a tool to communicate? Um, and so that was so took up so much time. I had turned more away from theater at that time because you don't have time to be in a show when you're traveling and competing every weekend. But my senior year, I started thinking like, okay, I've got this urge to um, get these messages out through my speech pieces. Uh, This is essentially what you're doing with theater as well. And that's when I produced my first play. I was like, let me bring this kind of speech and debate approach into directing the show. And that was the first time I stepped out of being an actor. And I was like, oh wow, it feels right to be on this side of it. I was like, I'm a little bit more concerned with this all being uh, cohesive in the way that it should be than I am about being in it and doing the performance. And it was kind of affirming to me, like, okay, maybe you need to be on this side. Um, and I did continue to act a little bit, which is what brought me to Chicago. I auditioned for a show, and I thought, you know what? If I get it, I'm just gonna after college, I'm gonna move to Chicago. It's a theater city. I'm gonna go for it. And I did. I got the part, and I moved here. Did a couple more plays, and then had an experience where um, I was in the play and just really disagreed with the director on what I should be doing to the point that I felt a little bit like insubordinate. And I was like, this has I am not an actor because I care. I am too committed to how I think it should be to I think be on this side of it any longer. And so then was fully in directing at that point. That was the last role that I played. That was like over 10 years ago. Um, and so soon after that, or during that time, I met my husband, Sam Probst, um, who that's when we first started directing work for camera, and we do that together. Um, so a little bit about how my husband and I work together. We direct everything together, so we're co-directors. I write on the front end, and he edits on the back end. So we like to say that we meet in the middle. And when we're there on set doing a production, um, our interest and our duties kind of like typically fall towards their natural directions, which is I lean more towards working with the actors and blocking the scenes. He leans more towards working with the cinematographer and the gaffer and the camera people to create the look of the film. And of course, he's talking about blocking. I'm talking about camera stuff as well. But we kind of have our focuses where we give each other a lot of trust. But in that was in 2012 that we shot, or 2013 that we shot our first pilot together. And we ended up, somehow being able to make 6 half-hour episodes of that show for the world's first LGBTQ streaming service, which is called Reverie. It's still there. The show was called Gayborhood. Um, and so we did 6 episodes of that. We did an episode of a drama pilot that didn't get picked up. But it was at that point that we were like, okay, we've made 3.5 hours of television shows. Like, we could absolutely make a feature film. And then in 2018, we turned towards making our first feature film, which was called Pig Hag. And that premiered at South by Southwest in competition.
Congratulations.
And yeah, thank you. And that was kind of, obviously a very life-changing moment for our career as directors. And because of that, we were able to make our second film, Ganymede, in 2022, hot off the pandemic. Um, so that was a wild experience. But so that it's kind of snowballed, and that's I explained it all over, like, I don't know how long that was, a minute and a half, but like that is from 2013 through to, we shot our last film in 2022. It was released in 2024. So, it's been a long journey, but that's kind of, I think you got to just keep your nose to your grindstone and
Yeah.
keep pushing and try and level up at each opportunity you can.
Yeah,
Um,
and you got to work with like Robin Lively and David Koechner.
yeah,
How was
which
that? I mean,
was
because again, going from like a an independent film, South by Southwest. I mean, again, you can go look up the trailer if you want to. Not you, but people who are watching or listening
yeah,
to
yeah,
this, you should see it. It's great. No, but again, you don't have to talk about how you got the finances and the budget for it, but like jumping to like the casting and all that stuff to how was that process? Kind of.
yeah. It was like we suddenly had more resources than we had ever had before. Our first feature that we put in the South by Southwest was made with the money in our pocket on any given weekend, with just like, full on. It was just basically Sam and I, and sometimes one other person who was on the crew. Um, so it was like, not a big production at all, to suddenly you've got like, way more than you've ever even dreamed of having. And so we had, because of South by Southwest, we were able to find a producer that believed in us, that believed in the script that we had written. And that, his name's Stephen Stanley. He's fantastic. And he kind of opened up the world to, hiring a casting director. And then that just opened us up to a world of being able to, put out these casting notices and work with actors that, it's a dream to work with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was wonderful, and kind of like, all right, like, now we're really playing.
Oh, awesome. I want to talk really quick about, again, your workshop that you're doing at Vagabond to help actors, who are working on independent film sets. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
very different, it's a very different experience working on, like Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, those types of shows that are,
totally
can
different. Yeah,
sometimes feel like a machine because they've been doing it for so long. They know what they're doing, right? And then there's the other side of it, which is, again, these independent films. Hopefully, more and more people are producing stuff here in Chicago, and you're going to be on. There's a wide gamut of experience, and as far as like the experience of an actor on a set. Again, sometimes it's a
right.
very small crew, sometimes it's a slightly larger crew, right? And just kind of getting used to being present, being there. The things that I love that we've talked about what you're bringing into it is like, diverse environments, which I just spoke to, but also when you're in those diverse environments, maintaining your calm, right? So
Hmm.
can you speak a little bit to, again, like what you want to work with um, Chicago actors on to make sure that they're prepared when they are going into these independent film settings?
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, in an independent film, that you're talking about a very diverse range of environments that you might be in. From, like I was just talking about, the difference between the two films we did. It may be, a couple people in a room and someone you're really comfortable with, to a whole host of people, someone you've never met, all around you while you're having to focus. And I think like what's key is that you kind of calibrate to whatever that situation is. I like to use the term calibrate because you're taking in several different factors. You're first, well, first put the work of the scene. Forget about what everything is. Like, you ultimately are going to be filmed, and you need to be focused on like what that is. Because everything else that has to do with the set, the amenities, this or that, is kind of outside of your control. At this point, you're there, you're on set. You're going to have to deliver in whatever environment that is. Of course, unless it's something like abusive and horrible, get out of that situation. But
Sure.
um, if what you got to do is calibrate to that. So it's like the first thing is, what is the truth of the scene to me? What's my gut telling me as an actor, using whatever method you might be used to, whether that's your very method, Meisner, you name it, whatever approach you have. What's your gut telling you? What's your training telling you? And then you might be meeting your scene partner for the first time. What's your scene partner telling you? What's their approach? You may not know their method, but what are they giving you within the scene or the rehearsal? And then finally, you've got a director coming in who has an idea about what the scene might be. And here's where it really changes: is like, one director may give you absolutely nothing, may think it's your responsibility to come up with something, and they're not going to give you much. There may be a director who explains it in full detail to you, exactly what they want, when to move your head and to do this or that. And you may have someone that falls somewhere in between. Um, but it's about taking those three things, uh, trying to make sure it's working with your scene partner, it's working for them, it's working for the director, and also importantly, that it's working for you. You feel good about the performance that you're putting down. Um, and like you were saying, all of this can create a lot of pressure. And the key is to like maintain calm during all of it. Regardless of what is going on around you, there may be someone talking, there may be someone eating chips, there may be, your scene partner might be a little more energetic than you were expecting them to be in the scene. But it's about contending with all of that, knowing that if you make a mistake, everybody on the set is making mistakes, whether that's the lighting person, the sound person. Everyone understands it's going to be part of your job, that like you're going to flub a line, something is going to happen, you won't feel good about a take and you'll want to do it again, and that is okay. Um, and it's about, if you're feeling nervous, kind of recovering from that, knowing that it's okay to look silly, taking I mean, this is how I try to create an environment, is to keep the pressure down for actors. Like, I don't think it helps anybody if you come in with so much pressure that if you mess this up, the whole production is shot. Like, who can work under that type of, like, feeling? And so the idea for me is like, make sure the actors are calm, make sure that they feel like they have a little bit of a say, that they can play here. And what I like to do is all together figure out what the scene is about, like what is real here, what is ultimately going to make viewers on the other side of a screen respond to what they're seeing, by saying like, oh yeah, I know that, oh, that's happened to me. And that's what I think we're all like looking for,
Yeah.
and that's, I mean, that's me as a director. Another director might tell you something different. But I think the most successful scenes come out of a collaboration that is between the actors and the director, but then also everything else that's going on, the cinematographer, all of that ends up being a collaboration that makes somebody feel an emotion. And if you're figuring out what that emotion is, then I think you're on the right path.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I think, going back to what you said as far as like getting direction, I mean, sometimes a director of photography might be like scoot over a little bit and, taking those notes
Yeah.
or again, we were talking before this about, sometimes the producer might have an idea and it's like, okay, that's hold, like let
That's
me check with the
right.
director, and just kind of like being able to juggle everyone's opinions and everybody's thoughts. And again, making sure that what I love about what you said was making sure that you feel okay with what you're doing as well, because if you don't, then you're not going to get a great performance. So,
Yeah.
but there's a
And
lot of
even if you're
opinions.
like, you might be like, this movie is horrible. I know this isn't going to turn out well. Sometimes you'll get to a set and maybe you'll figure that out. You're like, okay, this is wild. But maybe there's something that can be put in my reel. And so it's like, it's important to, even if you've lost confidence in the production, um, you're still going to get this opportunity to have something that you did. Maybe the script is bad, maybe your scene partner is bad, but there's probably something you can get out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, again, you look at most celebrities' career trajectories, we focus on all the big ones that like were successful and like, but most actors have those films that were like, it didn't really pan out or it wasn't what we thought it was, or they did it,
right.
but they just don't talk about those, it just doesn't come up as much. So being able to be on a set and, yeah, be able to take something away, hopefully a reel, its experience, all those sorts of things,
Yeah.
is good
And
stuff.
like I said, I think the key word is like calibrate, like process information quickly. Like you were saying, a cinematographer comes in, it's like, oh, can you scooch to the right or make sure that when you do turn your head, you don't go too far that it's, whatever it might be. Um, it's just like incorporate that quickly, kind of bump yourself, okay, he's high energy. I'm gonna have to match that in some way. And it does require thinking on your feet, because you're doing this once, like I think from a theater perspective, it can be so scary because it's like this is opening and closing night and it runs forever. So, I hope it's good. And it's like you can put that pressure on that in some respects, like that is true. Um, but I think that's all the more reason that it's like adjust quickly. What you got to be just nimble. And for some people, it may be like they may figure out like, okay, this is not the type of acting that because it can be very fresh. It can be like there are upsides to that as well. Like it is all those scary things, but it also gives you the opportunity to like perfect it. If you all figure out, oh, it has to be this way, you have the opportunity to do that and make sure it's perfect. There's like an opportunity for like freshness and kind of like realism and raw emotion. I think that happens on camera that isn't that happens in theater, but it's just um, it happens so rapidly and quickly that just the act of rehearsal or doing it 5 times a week. Um, I'm not saying it always drains it, but there's just this kind of rawness and quickness to film acting that is just it's sort of a different exercise from theater
Sure.
altogether. It's different muscles, and I think part of what this course is like let's work on what those muscles are because they're just a little bit different. You can absolutely have a theater background and translate that onto film. It just takes a little bit of it's like a workout.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, getting your reps in, and that's one of the reasons we really, that I think Vagabond is around is to help actors get those 10,000 hours of being in front of a camera so that they feel comfortable, right?
Yeah,
It's not always as easy to just jump in front of a camera as easy as people can make it look. It's because they've done it a lot, right? And so,
right.
so hopping in a workshop like this it's again, like you said, other directors might say different things, but for Chicago actors to hop in a workshop with a director, right, who has, who's directing films to be able to say like, cool, let me experience this. And the more that they can get essentially different opinions, different, the more they'll understand that, oh, there's not like a right answer to any of this and they should calibrate, right?
Hmm.
But it's about getting in the room and working so that you feel that the more you do that, it won't feel as jagged, right? It's like, oh,
It's
that's coming
true.
at me and I can take that and respond to it versus like, am I doing things wrong? Like panicking or, if it's your first time on a set and you're like, I don't know what's going on. The more you get in a room, again, on a set too is great, but here in Chicago, working with directors like yourself, um, can be a really great experience for people so that they're not just
Yeah.
hopping onto a set and but the more they do it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The more they do it, the easier it'll come.
And it's interesting too because it's like I feel like I have a different relationship with every actor as a director, and I think you'll find that is the case too. You're going to have a different relationship with each director, and I've learned that each actor kind of needs a different thing. Whereas one actor may need a full discussion, needs to understand every underpinning to why they're doing what they're doing in the scene. And with another actor, it might be like they need one word. They needed just a simple little bump or they didn't want to be told anything at all. They wanted to see how it came out in the moment. And that's what's, I guess, interesting for me teaching the workshop is working with different actors. But also, I think it's good practice for those actors in terms of I am a type of director that will kind of respond to what you need. So like if you're learning, I really need if you're um, needing a lot, I can give you a lot. If you don't want as much and kind of see how it goes, we can explore that too. But like I'll calibrate too to you. We're all calibrating. Ideally, everybody's calibrating in a collaborative environment.
Yeah.
Um, but I just wanted to touch on that as well.
I love it. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for your time today and coming in and
Of
talking to me
course.
about again your process and how you got to where you are. So again, if anybody's watching this, I would strongly recommend hopping in this workshop with Colby, get your reps in, work with an independent film director, learn how to kind of calibrate. Yeah, calibrate.
Yeah, let's calibrate.
Calibrate's the
We're gonna
word.
calibrate. Yeah, calibrate's the
We're
word.
gonna we're gonna calibrate. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.